And welcome to another edition of the Webby University, presented by our partner Vitamin T. My name's David Michelle Davies. I'm the Executive Director of the Webbies. Today we're going to talk about something that's an emerging trend, and it's actually a trend that's been going on for a number of years, and it's something we call real-time and personal content. We're going to focus and show you some examples of real-time and personal content, and also how it's really easy to achieve in whether you're doing an advertising campaign, a site, whatever it might be online. So let's get started. Okay, so our talk is in two parts. I'm going to tell you just a little bit about the Webby Awards if you're unfamiliar with it, and then we'll jump right in and start talking about real-time and personal content. So a little bit about the Webbies. It's judged by the International Academy of Digital Arts and Sciences. That's a 1,000-person member organization who live in 30 different countries on every continent as well. Every year the Webbies gets about 10,000 or more entries from 60 countries, so it's really a global show, and we honor, through the process of the Academy judging all of those entries, 4 distinct types of internet work. Websites, which the Webbies have been honoring since 1996, and that's all different types of websites: art websites, film websites, brand websites, weird websites, all the different types of sites you encounter on a daily basis. We also look at interactive advertising, so that's specifically advertising and marketing that's made for the web. We also look at online film and video. It's really an exciting, growing area of the Webby Awards, has been for a few years. It's video content that was created for, premiered online, and again, it's in all different types of categories. It might be news, it might be documentaries, it might be comedy, a lot of comedy, of course. And finally, mobile and apps we've been honoring for a few years, definitely the fastest growing area of the Webbies. I think we doubled entries in the previous year and came close to doubling them again this year, so a lot of new mobile and app work being done out there. All right, so let's get started. As I mentioned, this is all about real-time and personal content, and I like to think about this just to give you like a little anecdote about the TV guide problem, and let me show you what that problem is. This is a description of the movie New Year's Eve if you were to go and look for it on your DVR through Time Warner Cable. New Year's Eve celebrates love, hope, forgiveness, second chances, and fresh starts, and the intertwining stories told amidst the pulse and promise of New York City on the most dazzling night of the year. So from this review, it's really hard to tell whether most people like New Year's Eve, most people hate it, whether it was popular, unpopular. You really don't get much information from this. And I think this is pretty typical of the type of movie review that we've seen through our DVRs or in television guides for a long time. This is the review of New Year's Eve, or one of them, if you go to the site called Rotten Tomatoes, which at this point I hope everybody's heard about and many of our moms and grandmas even use. So that's, here's the review. As Winston Churchill might have said, never have so many done so little for so many with such dreary results. So the point here is that this information, the fact that most people actually don't like this movie at all, and it was one of the worst rated movies of the year, is readily available to anybody online. But for some reason, this kind of information is not available on your TV set. And so the point here is essentially to say that this is the type of information of the future. It's the type of information that's customized to you, that's in real time, that incorporates other people's opinions and gives you a perspective based on who you are, of whether you will enjoy watching this movie. And the type of review that we see on Time Warner Cable or Verizon, or sort of in a TV guide format, is really the type of information of the past. It's information that is not personalized, is not current, it does not have an opinion, it does not incorporate other people's views into it. So hopefully that gives you a snapshot, and we'll get into some examples right now. Okay, so we think there's 4 basic tenets of creating really good real-time and personal content. The first one is really obvious, which is that you have to have a good message, something interesting to say, whether it's a great movie review, encouraging people to do something through a marketing campaign, interesting news, whatever it is, what you're talking about has to start off as interesting and relevant. The second part is personalization. How can you make this information relevant and interesting to the person who's consuming it, and have it change based on who they are? So Rotten Tomatoes is a great example. Based on other movies you like, you might find certain reviewers that match your taste, and so you can actually sort of sift and cull through that site and find find information that's customized to you based on your other movie likes. The third thing is that real-time and personal content often engages the user in creating the content and in sharing the content, 2 things that are very important. And then finally, a lot of this stuff seems really complicated, but it's not, because there's a lot of great APIs out there that you can plug into to make information relevant, fresh, and personal to the people using it. So I'm going to start off with a bunch of examples that are actually in the nonprofit and social good space. And you might say, why would we start there? Well, what we found actually is it turns out that nonprofits and charities are really good at creating great messages because they often don't have big media budgets. And the success of what they do is really contingent on their ability to communicate why what they're doing is important, to find an audience and to help raise funds for it. And so we found that they are actually, once you give them the tools like APIs that are out there and the ability to personalize content and to get users engaged in it, they set the standards actually a lot of the times for creating real-time personal content. And let me show you. First one here is called something called METAP, and this actually started in Manchester in the United Kingdom. And METAP does something is so they're trying to make clean water accessible, and they're also trying to fight the waste of water bottles. So what they do is they sell this water bottle. It's the METAP bottle. You can see it here. It's fairly inexpensive. I think it's less than $10. And you buy the bottle. About 70% of the proceeds go to actually helping with water initiatives in the developing world where they don't have water. But as exciting is when you get the bottle, you can actually get access to this app. And there's all these different merchants and participants who have agreed to let people who have this bottle come into their store and literally put water in the water bottle, either a drinking fountain or from behind the counter or from a faucet or whatever it might be. So this is interesting for two things. So first of all, they're using this API to actually change people's behavior, right? They're not just encouraging people to drink water out of faucets instead of out of water bottles. They're giving people the tools to actually change that behavior. And they're engaging local businesses and the people who are enthusiastic about it in really changing the sort of ecosystem around how water is consumed. The second thing is this is actually relatively simple for them to do. They're just using this Google Maps API here. When they get a registered merchant, they can log where the merchant is on the map. And you can also see here in the app that there's tips from users and from the merchants themselves about how you get the water at their facility. So all relatively simple, plugging into Google Maps, locating where the water places are, you take your bottle in, you get the water, and so forth. And so what we love about this, again, just to wrap up, is that they're not only just using real-time personal content to solicit donation and money, which is a lot of which is going to the developing world for their cause, but they're also using it to change people's behavior and engage the users in the cause that they are promoting and celebrating. The next one is something called Be Super Ordinary, and it's about promoting fire safety, and this actually comes out of Australia. And so what they've done here is they've created like a Facebook page or a Facebook app which anybody can visit, and they can take a survey. And the survey is all about their life and the different things that they do in their life that may encourage or discourage fire safety in their home. And so by taking taking the survey, people learn a lot about what they are doing right and what they are doing wrong for fire safety. But the interesting thing is once you complete the survey, obviously you can share your results, and that's great. But they really encourage you to complete it because you can then upload a picture of yourself after you've taken the survey to the site, and they put this picture inside of a fireman. Well, the really neat thing is that then that fireman is actually a statue, and everybody who participates' face is projected inside of the statue in real time. So in this case, they've used real-time personal content. They've used the idea that by participating, your face can show up in the statue to encourage people to interact with their cause and their mission. And they've also gleaned information from you about your habits, which are helpful for them, and given information back to you at how you can do a better job at making your home safe for your family. So those are two examples of charities and nonprofits that are doing a great job of using real-time and personal content to not only change behavior, but also emphasize what their message is. So I'm going to show you a few brand examples from the commercial world and how these same lessons can be applied. The first one is a partnership between OAKLEY and SURFLINE, and it's a global mobile access to surf reports. So if you don't know, SURFLINE has been a great resource for surfers for many, many years. I think SURFLINE actually won Webby's and was nominated for Webby's in the late 90s, so it's been around for a really long time. And what they've always done is been a go-to resource to find out where the waves are. So back in the late 90s, they did this by having cams on different beaches, and you could go to the site and try and look for the beach you might be interested in going to and looking for the cam, the webcam. Of course, back then, the webcams weren't as sophisticated as they are now, and often you were looking at pictures as opposed to real-time video. Today, with all the advances in video and streaming and the quality of these cams and what you can actually go see is really superb. But so what they've done now, in addition to just going to this site, is there's actually an app for your phone. And so say you're a surfer and you're out on a beach somewhere and the waves aren't very good there. The app actually locates where you are and will show you other beaches and other webcams of surf there. So in a very short amount of time, you can be looking at beaches that are a mile or a few miles away or close to where you are and looking at real-time action of how the waves and how the surf is. Of course, they also provide real-time weather reports and things like that. So you can see some of that here. So what I love about this is they've taken something they've been doing for a long time, providing access to surf and surf reports, but now they've brought it into your pocket and onto your phone, and they've personalized it, right? So it's basically going to show you surf reports from exactly where you are, and really enable you to go find the best surf. And so it's a really simple idea, but it's a great way of showing how location can be used to personalize real-time content. So here's a really interesting example of how Bergdorf Goodman is incorporating real-time personal content into basically a brand and advertising campaign. And they're doing this using Instagram. So what they do, they came up with this idea of they really want to have a site where you can go and look at all the shoes that they sell at Bergdorf Goodman. Well, in order to make it more interesting and personal to people who were looking at it, they asked people to take snapshots of the shoes themselves in their native environment. So in here you see a snapshot of the shoe that somebody took, really well positioned in Instagram using a filter and so forth. Once they've taken the shot, they then tag it, and it immediately shows up in this map that Bergdorf Goodman created of where the shot was taken. And so here you can see all the shots of shoes that were taken by people on the island of Manhattan show up on the island. If you happen to be outside of Manhattan, they show up in the water, I guess, to Bergdorf Goodman. Nowhere exists besides Manhattan, but which is pretty funny. But so what they end up doing then is they end up using all of these shots to create essentially a catalog of all the different shoes taken from photos of other people. So again, a really simple concept, but tapping into some things that are exciting, using Instagram in a really fun way, and getting people's personal sort of perspective on their shoe and their photography into their own advertising campaign. So a really interesting campaign, I think. So this next one is actually something we've seen before. It's Walmart's Shoppycat. And basically what it does is it enables gift recommendations during the holiday seasons for your friends. So we actually saw this in a sort of smaller or more niche scale last year, where Etsy did something very similar. And now we see major retailers like Walmart using this concept to help people find gifts during the holidays. Here's how it works. You basically go to the Walmart Shoppycat site, you log in with Facebook, and you tell the site who you're looking for a gift for. So in this case, let's say I'm looking for a gift for Jeff. I click on Jeff. Well, what it does, it then scans all of Jeff's interests, and it sees the movies that he's liked and the film and the books that he's liked, and it makes associations, and it comes back with a bunch of recommended gifts that Jeff might like based on his Facebook profile. So I really like this because it's super simple. One of the hardest things I think about giving gifts is figuring out what to give someone. And for me personally, the thing that prevents me from giving gifts is not wanting to give them, but is not being able to think of something that's good enough to give. So this really enables that process, and it's very fast. So you log right in, immediately you have suggestions for a gift for Jeff. And even if you don't end up liking these suggestions, they do stir a bunch of ideas. Oh, I could get him a DVD, or I could get him this. I heard him talking about this movie or whatever it might be. So it really enables that idea of, it really enables the process of figuring out what to give someone. Okay, so what did we learn? I'm going to put some takeaways up here on the slide, which you can check out. But I think the main thing essentially is that content it's not really acceptable anymore to be delivering content and information to people that's static or stale. There's so many new inputs in the world. People change things. There's so many opinions. And it's all happening in real time. And people now have an expectation that the content they're looking at will be personalized to them and that it'll be updated in real time. And so that idea of like the listing and the TV guide that really offers no perspective or opinion and really doesn't give you any idea whether you'll like that movie is sort of is the kind of content of the past. And the content of the future, whether that's a marketing message, it's trying to engage people in a charity, or just actually trying to provide people information, is all about being real-time and personal. And it seems potentially a little bit difficult at first to provide people with real-time and personal content. But what we found actually is if you rely on APIs, location through Google Maps, photos through Instagram, and the number of hundreds of other APIs that are out there, it's actually not so difficult to provide people with real-time and personal content. So that's our edition of the Webby University. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much to our supporter and presenting sponsor, Vitamin T, and we'll see you next time.